Wasn't as salacious as people may have expected. To some extent, the Prime Minister last night at the 1922 committee meeting of backbench Conservative MPs was saying that actually he was quite glad the Sue Gray report had finally been out, said that it sort of clears up a lot of the ambiguity with these media stories of the last 6-7 months, cleans up the ideas in people's minds that was the Prime Minister the person who vomited on the wall or spilt wine or broke a swing or all of these things. Well, clearly in the Sue Gray report, no, the Prime Minister did not get up to any of that greater extremity of debauchery. No, in fact, we saw the pictures for which the Prime Minister was fined. In fact, they blazoned the front page of some newspapers, particularly The Sun and the Daily Mail this morning. And looking at these pictures, it doesn't actually look like he was having the most raucous time. No. It looks like quite a miserable affair, actually. And I think if I were to have a birthday party standing at my office table with a cheap sandwich in front of me, I think I'd be rather shortchanged.
Yes, I agree.
Well, Tom, we mentioned there that the main picture on the newspapers is this one of the Prime Minister, and he's raising a glass of what looks to... What's it called?
Isn't it?
Well, there's a dispute
or maybe
as to whether that's an Estrella can.
Yeah.
There's a might be Estrella.
So what event is this? Because there are other pictures where there is definitely, indisputably, alcohol in the picture. There are multiple bottles of open wine. So help us distinguish between those two events, because I agree, this is not a party. Come on now.
No.
But
interestingly, this event, the one where he's holding that can aloft, is standing at his place at the Cabinet Room table, is looking really quite dour-faced, not very happy at all, standing there next to the Chancellor, with some orange juice on the table and some sandwiches. It looks like a terrible conference. I've been to some conferences that have a food set on about like this, and it doesn't look like the sort of most fun affair in the world. But that was the event for which he was fined. This one at the Cabinet table on the 19th of June 2020 is why the Prime Minister got a fixed penalty notice from the Metropolitan Police. And many people will be asking, what is exactly the difference between this particular event, where he's standing there with work colleagues before a meeting, yes, with some trinkets on the table? What is the difference between that and Sir Keir Starmer at a time of similar rules, indoor mixing banned, outdoor mixing legal, when Sir Keir Starmer was there with his beer, with his curry, milling around with many Labour staffers? Is that particularly different from the Cabinet Room event? Many people would suggest no.
Well, I think many people would suggest it's actually worse. But
and also, I'd look sad if I was standing next to him and he keeps taxing the hell out of me as well. But, Tom, what has this changed in terms of the Prime Minister's popularity? Because, it's no secret here at GBNews, especially on this show, we're always reading out views from our viewers and listeners saying, get over it, we don't care anymore. According to the polls this morning, has this affected anything?
We haven't got yet a wide-ranging view. Of course, it hasn't been that long since the report has been published. We need to wait a few more days to get those snap poll responses. But there are some indications already that nothing has really changed off the back of this report. It wasn't the big damning revelation that has sent the Prime Minister's popularity spiralling, but also it hasn't been a document that made people sit up and think, actually, this wasn't as bad as I thought in the first place. No, it seems like the Prime Minister has lost trust with many people in Britain. Not everyone. There are some people who still support him very fervently. A lot of people who write into this programme, for example, who still support him fervently, but they're in a minority. It's truthful to say that the majority of people of Britain feel like their trust in the Prime Minister has been shaken by this event. However, it is in between elections. The people of Britain get to vote once every 5 years, or early if there's a snap poll. It's the MPs that matter in the meantime. And the MPs don't seem to feel like enough really has been revealed, enough has taken place to dislodge a Prime Minister at this stage.
No, absolutely. I mean, just having a quick look at what appears to be, anyway, on Boris Johnson's table, it's not massively dissimilar to what Eamon Holmes has in front of him every single morning, minus the beer, of course. Orange juice, apple juice, some sandwiches. I mean, it's not the end of the world, is it?
What was noted, actually, is on those pictures of those sandwiches, you can see some reduced labels, some little yellow reduced labels.
They've saved the taxpayer money.
So clearly, I mean, it's not the most lavish affair, is it? And actually, looking at the picture of Boris Johnson's face around the Cabinet Room table looks fairly dour. And yet, then later in this November event, he looked a little bit happier with a glass of wine. But these are the two distinct pictures that or the two events that are pictured in the Sue Gray report. 9 photographs in total, out of over 500 photographs that were submitted to Sue Gray. So really, The 500 photographs, many people are saying, where on earth are they? Why can't we see all of these 500 photographs?
Why was it taken, really? But,
as far as we understand, the 9 photographs that have been published are those that involve the Prime Minister.
Okay.
The other 491.
Yeah.
That's quick maths. The other 491 don't involve the Prime Minister. It's more junior staff, and that's why they weren't published.
Well, thank you, Tom, for bringing us that update.